You are now listening to a Dose of Three podcast.
Welcome to A Dose of Three, hosted by myself, Kiana,
Andrea,
and Tia.
So before we jump into the topic, ladies, let's do a check-in. How are y'all doing? How was your week or weeks? We haven't seen each other in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been good with the exception of today. Yeah, I had a rough day with technical challenges at work, and then my boys just getting on my nerves. So other than that, my last week since I seen y'all was pretty cool.
And yeah, my week was good. I've just been busy at work, which is every day. But yeah, it's been good. How about you, Kiana?
I have been pretty good. I found out that Justice School is opening. The school that we sent him to prior to everything shutting down is reopening. And I'm very excited because I really don't enjoy homeschooling. Okay, that's my truth. I put it out there. And I'm so happy that instead of being a homeschool mom, I will be a mom dropping my son off and helping him with his school. So because of that, that made my whole entire week, and we're not even at the end yet. Okay. What else? Oh, I'm on a weight loss journey again for like the 50th time. This time I'm doing Weight Watchers. I've probably been on Weight Watchers since about the beginning part of February. And I'm telling you, it's starting to be no joke because I have been trying to eat clean, but I really want a cheeseburger. I really want a milkshake. I really want some greasy fries. I want a sweet potato pie. I want ice cream. I want all these things that I can't eat because if I eat them, it's going to be all my points and I'm going to be starving for the rest of the day. So it's really been challenging just trying to eat clean.
I'm sorry, Kiana. I'm sorry.
But I'm trying to get it together.
Right, girl, I've been saying for the last 10 years, I'm trying to get my life together. I'm trying to lose weight too. Girl. But I can say that I did lose, let me see, wait a minute, let me do the calculation real quick. I did lose 12 pounds in 3 weeks.
What?
And I was not, yeah, and that was with me not being too consistent with my plan. Like I wasn't spot on, but yeah, so girl, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm your cheerleader, Kiana. You got to cheer me on.
Yeah, what did you do?
Well, I'm exercising. I'm drinking my water. You know, got my water. I try to drink a gallon a day. I do exercise. Well, this is my thing. I am exercising every day. I'm going to do that consistently, at least a half hour to an hour. And then I'm trying to do a vegan lifestyle. So I've been trying this for less than a year now, but and been slipping big time along the way. But I'm really trying to stick to that. So just cutting out the meats. I haven't quite cut out all the dairy, but the meats I've been pretty good with. But that's it. But yeah, it's one day at a time for real. It's one day at a time. So
that's awesome.
I am proud of you. I only lost 4 pounds and 4 ounces. And
look, Kiana, if I can get down to your size. If I can get down to your size again, okay.
I just want to be pre-pregnancy lightweight. That's all. Like, I'm not trying to be like super skinny. Just me before I had my son. That's all. So I could fit into the majority of my clothes. That's all I want.
Yeah.
Did y'all get an opportunity to look at the YouTube video that I sent? And based upon Tia's age, I guess that's enough.
Full disclosure, I did not. I forgot it.
I listened to it.
Well, basically, for the people who are listening, I sent Andrea and Tia did not do her homework, guys. I sent Andrea and Tia a YouTube video of basically a couple giving advice to women on how to prepare for marriage. Well, basically, so they were stating that they were giving advice to prep for marriage, but I felt like it was just geared towards women. The title of the YouTube video didn't say it was geared towards women, I don't think, but that's what I felt when I listened to them talking. So that leads us into our topic, which is, are men prepared to be husbands as much as women are prepared to be wives? Who wants to start first? Andrea, Tia, any takers?
Well, just to piggyback on the video that, Kiana sent, their question was, what does it mean to wait on God for your husband or for your wife? And one of the things they really stressed was, a lot of people say, I'm going to wait on God, and they do nothing. They're just waiting for God to just, carry some man or some woman into their life, and bam, this is who I'm supposed to be with. But what are you doing to prepare yourself to be that husband or to be that wife? So their thing was, which I agree, you got to wait with action. You got to do something. And that's what, they came up with some, or they discussed some things that you can do to prepare yourself. But I'm just wondering, do people think about that? Are you saying, one, am I ready? A lot of people say I'm ready because they tired of being alone. But Are you preparing yourself? What have you done to position yourself to be the best husband or to be the best wife that you can be? So I thought that was really good. Just, saying waiting with action. And that brought me to thinking about a couple of things that I had saw years ago. One of them was Juanita Bynum's No More Sheets. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. We shared that in our youth ministry at the church I grew up in when I was a young teenager.
I loved No More Sheets.
And wait a minute.
And I took my paper towel and I was wiping myself down. Hello.
No,
I loved it too because I was foolish, but I was young.
Really? No, I still listen to it. Like literally, I have it saved because there's a good message behind it. But one of the things Juanita Bynum was saying in that was just going along the lines of this particular video you shared was she was saying how she, prepared herself, or how God told her to prepare herself as a wife. And, a couple of things she said was he woke her up every morning. I think it was like around 5:00 every morning just to go into prayer and just to go into worship. And like what she was saying from that, and don't quote me, Juanita Bottom. But one of the things she said behind that was that, she can't be that covering for her spouse or intercede on his behalf or cover him in prayer if she herself didn't have a prayer life, with Christ herself. And then there was the other things, that she was saying, the material things more so of, making sure you had a clean house. Like if you living in a dirty house, whatever, you don't want to bring no husband into that house, or making sure you stock with.
Might not mind.
Right. Yeah. Making sure you stocked with food, with household items, and making sure you out of debt or you're on top of your bills and, getting your bills paid, and then, owning property. And like, I think one of the things she was stressing besides the spiritual thing was like, what can you offer? A lot of people saying, I want, a husband and wife to do this, or that. And I want them to have this, and that, but they don't have it themselves. And so it's like, what can you bring to the table too? So I thought about the Juanita Bynum's No More Sheets too when I, listened to that video you sent.
Well, actually, when I listened to the video, I was irritated because I feel
what
like
were you irritated about?
I was irritated because I feel like read the title again. What was the title?
I think the title was actually, what does it mean to wait on God for your husband? I think they were more so gearing it towards women.
I don't think it was. It said husband specifically. I was.
Or could be spouse.
For the I think it was just spouse because because if it was geared towards husband, I wouldn't have been irritated. But the reason why I was irritated is because everything was geared towards how a woman should prepare themselves for marriage, and I think. If I go back to the question, are men prepared to be husbands as much as women are prepared to be wives? I really don't know, but the focus is generally on the woman being prepared.
Yeah.
And I feel like the focus, yes, a woman should be prepared. Yes, you should give practical practical ways to be prepared, and the practicality would be, make sure you clean, you wash dishes, you cook, stuff like that. That's the.
But I still think that's make believe though.
But no. Let me finish. Okay, so I'm just saying, I don't care about if you telling me practical ways. I don't care if you're telling me spiritual ways. I don't care. But what I care about is the fact that the focus should be not just on the woman, but the focus should be on the man as well, because it's the man that's leading the household. It's the man that's the head of the woman. It is not the woman that's ahead of the man. And I like to use this example. I'm going to use it today, and I probably will use it 10 days from now, 10 weeks, 10 years from now. I always say that when Eve ate the fruit, there was no change. When Adam ate that fruit, that's when it was a change. And I believe that, it just shows just how important the husband's role is in the marital relationship. The Bible says that Eve was deceived, but Adam sinned. And then that's when you saw that there was a difference. And there's so many different points I could pull out, like the fact that she was deceived because he wasn't really playing his role. Things didn't change. There was no shift, in their home unit. There was no shift in their relationship between them and God until he made a mistake, until his transgression. So I feel like, being that the guy has so many responsibilities, leading a household, like you can destroy your wife and your children by making the wrong decision. You can end up walking off a cliff and having the whole family drown. You can make life-changing, crucial decisions that will destroy your home. So I think because of that alone, the church, I'm speaking from a Christian perspective, I feel like the church needs to do better with helping to prepare not just the woman, but the man too. And I know that it's probably mainly geared towards women because, the dream is, the dream, I guess, and I have quotation marks, but y'all can't see me because y'all are listening. But I felt, the dream is like all women want to be married. We want to have babies. So there's a ton of literature that's geared towards helping us get prepared.
Because people make money off of people's brokenness.
Right.
So it's a market for it to convince women that that's what they need to do.
Right. But also, like, I'm speaking about like my experience in church, the people weren't trying to market us. They weren't trying to make money off of us. They were really trying to, educate us and give us wisdom. And I feel, in my experience and in my opinion, I felt like it was always geared towards, girl, you better cook. First off, my mother's, one of my mother's good girlfriends, she does not cook, but her husband cooks. Okay. And he's a phenomenal cook. And I remember, before I got married, before I even met my husband, she said, Kiana, get you a man that cook because you don't, you might end up in a situation like me. You might not be cooking. So, as far as like marital roles, that's between you and your husband or you and your spouse. But I just feel like the focus is always, girl, you better be cooking. Girl, you better, know how to clean. Girl, you better, know how to lay it down in a bedroom. Girl, and if you're broken, you need to get that stuff together. You need to be emotionally balanced and all this other stuff. And it's like, what happened to the man? Like, what is he bringing to the table? Or if they're talking about the man, they're just talking about his finances. And finances are important in marriage, but you need somebody that's not crazy, that's not going to beat on you, that's not going to cheat on you, that's going to have a relationship with Jesus Christ. And I'm talking about from a Christian perspective, because the Bible says that ahead of the man is Jesus. And how is he your head if you don't talk to him, you don't pray, you don't, you're not reading your word, you don't even know him. And as a result, you can't even hear from God to give you direction concerning your household, your wife, and your children. So that's my perspective.
So to various things, I feel like the parts when you referenced like no more sheets being so incredible, like the thing that bothers me is none of the stuff that she said should ever, if you're talking to Christian people, why is it before you get married, this is what you have to do? Or like for a man, this is what you have to do. Like you should just be waking up and praying to God because you're a Christian. Like you should do all of these things because you're a Christian. You should know how to.
But that wasn't the basis of her thing. The basis of her
that was for her.
Yeah, the basis of her message wasn't in order for you to have a.
But she was when she was talking about her
or to be. Or to be a wife, you had to do this because she actually listen. I listen to this all the time. She actually pointed out some people are not meant to be married.
Yeah,
and some people are meant to be single.
Yeah.
I would say that wasn't the basis of her thing.
Oftentimes, that kind of is as if people will always talk about singles ministry, and I'm like, in real life, there's no need for it because the life of a single person is the life of a Christian person. Like there's nothing, the special piece is because you're married. Because if you're single, you only have to worry about God. If you're married, you have to worry about your spouse. And so the person to teach you that is your spouse. But to the idea of whether or not women or men are prepared the way that women are, I don't really think either are actually prepared in real life. I feel like people have come up with this idea of what preparing women looks like. So they say things like, girl, you got to keep yourself up. Girl, you got to cook and clean. Girl, you got to do this. Girl, just move his shoes. Like, you know what I'm saying? Don't be his piece and all of this stuff. But I don't really think that that's real preparation. Like, I know people in successful marriages that don't clean their house, don't cook. And as many times as I've heard at marriage seminars, the preacher has to tell women to have sex with their spouses. These women don't like sex either. So I feel like it's like,
no, that's not.
They don't like having sex with their spouse. No, I know they might like it somewhere, but the preacher has to tell have sex. I don't know. Like it's weird to me as a
not everybody.
Like why do the preacher have to tell y'all to have sex?
There's a percentage. In every group.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So what I'm saying, I don't think that a lot of what's being done in the name of preparing people for marriage is actually preparing. Mm-hmm. I feel like because if it was working, then a lot of these people who get married in the church and have gone through all of the classes and received the preparation, they wouldn't be getting divorced or they wouldn't be sneaking and cheating with people who go to the church too. Like, I feel like, so I don't think anyone's really getting prepared for marriage. And I think because partially the focus is prepare you for marriage and not just disciple you so you know how to be a decent Christian. You know what I mean? Disciple you so that you fear God enough that regardless if you are tempted by someone that is not your spouse, you fear him enough and you acknowledge that the person that you are married to is his child. So if you give in to that temptation, you not only dishonor God, you sin against him and you hurt his child and you're going to have to give an account for that. And I just feel like that comes from just knowing how to be a believer. And I think there should be more focus on that. And then you would get the men who understand that it's not all about, well, because I've been in a church before and a young man, the sign that he was ready to get married was that he got rid of his game console. Like that's the measure. Like he not gonna play the video games. So now he ready. Now he is ready, honey. Mm. He has a job, still live at home, but he got a job and he gave up his. That is not the measure of what makes you ready. Like, yeah. And I think the thing, and granted, my perspective is interesting because I'm not married, nor have I ever been married. But unfortunately, I've had to sit through a lot of things in the name of preparing people for marriage. I think just a lot of times it's not really preparing. I don't think that the average woman gets prepared at church to actually have a marriage. She learns how to keep a home, which is something that older women should do anyway. Teach the younger women how to keep a home. She learns practical things, but that doesn't necessarily prepare you to be a wife. And the men definitely don't get any kind of, I don't think the men are prepared at all.
Besides have a job.
Yeah, besides have a job.
Be able to date your potential spouse.
Yeah. And
I
with
get
the piece, what you were saying initially, Andrea, what they were saying in the video about, like, you know, you working and you doing, you got to put the work in. And I don't necessarily agree with that. I know that's what people say. I just feel like I'm not necessarily, I feel like I don't see the pattern as a woman for the woman to be doing all of these bells and whistles, because, and I have a very unique view of marriage. I'll preface my statement with that. But when I immediately look through the scriptures, there are so many things that I need to dig into more. I acknowledge that. But when I look at marriage, marriage is a clear benefit to the man. The benefit to the woman is not as explicit. And with that understanding, I feel like you, sir, need to go, because your life won't get better because of me. You're going to be favored because of me. Like, you're going to be honored in the town because of me. I'm just going to bear your kids if I'm still kids age, and then I'm home with the children. And then even when, like this week, I was thinking about the Proverbs 31 woman, the virtuous wife. And she is bad. I know, she's good. She's a good woman, but in like urban vernacular, she bad. But then I was thinking, yo, this poor lady don't sleep. She got multiple business. She do the most, and she don't sleep. She do a million things. She take care of her husband, her kids. She got businesses. She got land. She up in nice sewing stuff, and he gets honored in the town. And her reward is your children. Like, they call you blessed. And I'm like, so if that's the trade-off, sir, you need to be prepared for me. Like, because you need me, it wasn't good for you to be alone. So you needed to go find a wife so that your life can flourish. So I feel like that needs to be the focus, and then shift the way that women look at marriage. I think if women saw it correctly, they would choose better. But that's all. That's it for me.
Every time Tia talks, y'all, I'm always taking notes.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tia. Andrea? No, I do agree that knowing how to clean your house, knowing how to cook a meal, knowing how to preparing yourself to be a mother and that stuff, I do think that is kind of cliche. I do not think those are the things that are to prepare you for marriage. I absolutely agree. When I think of, and I can't remember, just going back to the video that Kiana shared, I can't, off the top, I can't think of what they said you had to wait for, like wait with action. I don't know if Kiana remember and could jump in, but it wasn't more so of some of the things I mentioned that Juanita Bynum did. It was more so of like you taking care of you. And like when just me, because clearly, you know, I was married, I'm divorced, and where I can kind of think like nothing truly prepares you for marriage, really. But one of the things Kiana said before was in a relationship, in the marriage, whatever, if you make Jesus your center, if you make him the head, if you have that relationship with him, not that you won't experience any trials or challenges or conflicts, he will make it easier because you have him to help you through, to see your way through, to give you strength, to give you encouragement, to get through those valleys and those mountains. And when I kind of think about, you know, me specifically, I can't really say like what would have prepared me. I think about if I just worked on me, meaning if I was, you know, healed from hurt and pain, if I was delivered from some sins that spilled over into my marriage, if I had a stronger relationship with Christ, those things would have made it easier. And I'm just talking about on my part. Some of the things I experienced in my marriage would not have been, I don't know, I wouldn't say so detrimental. I wouldn't say that, but I would have leaned more on Christ, and I would have heard his voice. I would have heard his voice when he spoke to me, because some of the times I thought I heard his voice on things to do. and where to move. And I wasn't quite sure if it was him. But just all in all, just going back to what prepares you, or what I believe will prepare you, is, again, the depth of your relationship in Christ. And yeah, everybody's not meant to be married, and some people are called to singleness, and people need to know that. But if you do have that desire, to be married, and when I say, you wait with action, I feel as though people have to work on themselves, look at themselves, see what it is about them that they can, I won't say perfect themselves in, but going from a Christian perspective, are you living the way God wants you to live? Are you appearing before God how you should be? And thus that will then attract your mate. And so, yeah, that's what I think about, with waiting with action, not necessarily, I gotta lose weight and I gotta clean and I gotta learn how to bake all these goods, but, working on you internally, and spiritually.
That was good. When they spoke about waiting with, you just can't wait and expect your husband to drop out of the sky. They weren't in that particular, part of the conversation. They weren't specifically talking about you have to be whole and you have to know how to cook and all the other stuff. They were basically saying, like, practically, you cannot be sitting in your house, not seeing anyone and saying, oh, I want you to send me my husband. But I disagree, because I believe when it is the season, you're going to meet your mate. Okay. No matter what the circumstances are, because for me, I felt like that's what happened. I felt like literally it wasn't the right timing for me. I wasn't looking and I was found. Like, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't even know that my husband was checking me out when he was checking me out. Like, I wasn't even checking for him. I was, I had just, I was in a season of just transitioning. Like, I had left one ministry and I was trying to figure out where I was supposed to go. I was broken. I was hurt. And so hurt, from my past experience, not because I was in sin or anything like that, and because of that, I was like, God is not going to send, I'm like, when he came, I'm like, oh, this is a distraction, because God wouldn't connect me with my husband in this season, and the Bible says to be prepared in season and out of season. And although he is not specifically talking about meeting your mate, I took that scripture because literally I felt like this is out of season. This is not what I even want at this moment. I'm trying to find a church home. I'm concerned about my spirit and who's going to shepherd me. I am not looking for no man. I'm not checking for it. So for that point that they made, I disagree, but they're speaking from their experience. And so if they were have me as a guest on their podcast, I could give them a different experience and perspective, because literally I felt like I was I was dropped from the sky, or Dawn was dropped from the sky. God just made the connection. And I wasn't praying. I wasn't looking, and I wasn't trying to go to a bookstore where I felt like I was going to meet some guys, or stand around the produce section in the supermarket, or, go to a concert where I might connect with some other people. I was just living my life. And literally, because it was the season, God connected my husband and I. And to Tia's point, she said that there is no benefit for the woman. And I disagree. I almost said I disagree, church. I disagree because the Bible says in Ephesians 5 that the husband is supposed to love the wife like Christ loved the church. And when you have a man like that, and I believe I have a man like that, he will lay down his life for you. The Bible doesn't tell us to lay down our lives. The Bible tells us this is to submit. So I'm submitting to him. Yes, he has obtained favor because he has me, but he is laying down his life for me. That means, whatever that looks like in your relationship, in your marriage, to me, that's a powerful statement, because he is, Christ didn't necessarily want to go to the cross, but he did it because of his love for the church. And there's going to be some stuff that I know my husband doesn't want to do, but he's going to do it because he loves me. And to me, that's a benefit, because I'm going to walk in love, of course, because I'm a Christian, but the Bible specifically commands the husband to do that. So it's a benefit to me, and I'm enjoying the benefit, guys. I'm just saying. What
Enjoy
else?
it.
Yeah, you should enjoy it, and the Bible does indeed say that. Absolutely. I'm not clear on many other benefits.
That's a major benefit. Like, he's going to die
and
for me.
As a single person, you have Jesus who laid his life down for you. But you know what I'm saying, as to not follow in with the, any evil that would tell people to forbid people to marry, get married, it's what God wants. However, I'm a very, the way that I think is very, just technical. And I'm like, so this is, okay, so it explicitly says, and it clearly says the woman was made for the man, not the man for the woman. And so I just feel like that message needs to be amplified, because currently society acts as if the men are the benefit to the woman. Like, you are missing your blessing. So you need to, if as a man, if you knew the blessing that a wife was, then you would be looking. And you would be praying, and then God will send the woman that's supposed to be for you, so that you can find her. So that's I just feel like society is the opposite. And it's like, no, the men should be the ones that are all desperate and vying and waiting for somebody to tell them, how do I get a wife? Give me the secrets. What must I do? Instead of the women doing it. And it's just like,
yeah, I get that. I agree with that.
It makes sense with how they perpetuated two women when you look at what marriage actually is. So that's hush, Kiana. For y'all listening, me and Kiana usually have the same debate because we have two very different views. And I tend to be very cynical. Yeah. So, just so y'all know, Kiana and I have had this conversation on the phone on numerous occasions.
And we still have the same stance, y'all, after 50 conversations. Okay.
Well, I want to bring up the video that Jackie Hill Perry and her husband had on Instagram. And it was something along the lines of what we're discussing today, but her husband Preston was basically saying that from a male's perspective in the church, marriage is often viewed as a mark of maturity for a man, and that, or for anyone, and that because you're saved, you're then ready for marriage. And so he was just saying that was like a huge misconception. But he was saying for the role of men, not the role, why men are not prepared to be husbands is because they lack discipleship. And more specifically, he was saying that there aren't other men that are pouring into them, that are teaching them, that are praying over them, that are modeling. Yeah. He was saying also that there aren't men that are watching them, like watching their growth in Christ. And then also he was saying, and a lot of men don't have examples to look to of healthy marriages. And so that's what he was saying, was it more so why he felt a lot of men are not prepared to be husbands, was because the lack of discipleship. But kind of going on what Tia was saying, as far as, we as women bring value to the men. Jackie had brought up something. She was saying, when you may be questioning, if this person is the one, or if we're meant to be, or should I pursue this person in courtship or even marriage, she was saying one thing you could ask yourself is where you're going or where you want to be aligned with where I want to go. And she was saying, ask yourself, can I help help and serve you? And can you do the same for me? And I think that was one of the things she said that she kind of thought about. Don't quote me. I think that was the word. Those were her words. But when she was saying God was showing her that Preston was her husband, and he was also showing Preston that she was his wife. And yeah. And, those are the things that she kind of thought about. And I thought that was a really good point, or a really good perspective from them both, on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that, Andrea.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated his perspective. I really appreciate his perspective. Yeah. Because you rarely hear men talk about that. Like it really aligned with what our podcast is about today, because it's like, this is a man saying this is what, and I think he had it, but he's just saying from what he sees, like a lot of men don't have that. And then you think about the condition in some communities, like there are a lot of men who grew up without fathers, you know what I mean? So they're raised by single mothers, and they may not have ever seen a man properly love a woman. So, they're just guessing, and they're doing what they think is love. And unfortunately, what society demonstrates, like what society tells you, or the world tells you, this is what it looks like. It's not love at all. So I definitely like the whole idea of the modeling, because I think he had mentioned, like, having an older man in the faith actually invite you over to dinner, and you can see how he lives, you know what I'm saying, how he carries himself as a man, as a husband, as a father. So you can actually see, like, oh, this is what it looks like. Of course, you're going to be a different person, but, just to see it instead of kind of conceptualizing it and guessing as you go along. But I would love to see men's ministry be more important. Like, I feel like women have had more than enough conferences, more than enough seminars. We good. Let's just do a couple of years, just focus on the men. I still
want the conferences, though.
But I'm saying we've been conferenced out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's been,
and they have a conference. Like, but I be wanting to go to,
because I feel like we could use a break.
I always wanted to go to their conference.
We've been conferenced out, Tia. Is that what you're
saying? I haven't been, but Tia has.
Well, maybe Tia has been conferenced out. I'm good. I'm for anything that is specifically geared towards women. Give me a conference that is, let's just talk as a believer. But I feel like women have been conferenced out, and ain't that many tote bags and brunches.
No,
and tea,
I feel like conferences, and traveling, like commercial conferences, that's all about just gaining money and just drawing a crowd so that you can make money. But I'm saying the conferences that we have at our church, I enjoy our conferences. But continue.
So I feel like I'm women conference out. I feel like we could do, like, because there's nothing for men. And I would love to see there be more of a intentional focus on ministering to men, and and just discipling men and teaching them how to be godly men. And I think it would reduce the need for some of these, I'm a woman, I'm broken, please give me a tote bag and talk to me. Because if you had a husband that was actually praying for you, loving on you, and living the way God tells you, you wouldn't need so much of outside people to do something that your spouse could do for you. I just would like to see men get more. Shout out, Kiana.
I just can't with the broken and the tote bag.
I'm just saying. That's what women's conferences be, like tote bags, and there was like the photo backdrop wall and this hashtags, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, let the men do some stuff. Talk to the men. Tell the men about Jesus. Minister to the men. Lay hands on the men. Cast demons out the men. Have the men cry and roll around and be sad about their upbringing. Like, come on. Like, the men are just neglected, and then unfortunately these men are in the lives of women, and the women have to bear the bruises of dealing with men who don't actually minister to.
Yeah.
Right.
They need real ministry, though. Not like, because just like you're saying, like,
not tote bag.
Women in a tote bag. I mean, they might not be given a tote bag, but it's like the word is like, what was the point? You could have stayed at home. But yeah, I agree with that more men need to be ministered to.
And then most of the time when it is,
get them to talk.
Men, it's about like morals, or you'd have been being a community leader and having money and generational wealth and legacy, opposed to get healed and get delivered.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I felt that. Yes, get healed emotionally, because they could be crazy. For real. Shoot, I feel like they could be just as crazy. People think women crazy, no, men crazy. They
men crazy
show up at your house, okay, won't leave. Yeah,
beat
you, crazy.
Stalk you.
Yeah. So please, can the men get healed too?
If you're enjoying the episode thus far, please don't forget to find and follow all our social medias at A Dose of 3. Head over there and share your opinions with us on this week's topics. Let us know what other things you think we should discuss. We'd like to answer some of your questions, so ask away. And we want to keep you posted on any new activities we may have coming up, so don't miss out. You can also send any additional inquiries to us via email at adoseof3@gmail.com. Now let's get back into our show.
I have a question, Andrea, and you can answer or not. That's cool. But when you were talking about things that you could have done to prepare, do you think if you would have done all of that, like how would it have been different? Would you have made a different choice in spouse? Or do you think in being married to that spouse, something would have changed with how you dealt with your experiences with him?
I do believe had I had a deeper relationship with Christ, had I been healed and delivered, I probably would not have married whom I married. I know for sure I would not have. Yeah. But I don't know if I want to correct myself or not. I don't know if I said just what you just asked me, if me being healed, delivered, me having that relationship, and me being deep seated in the word, would that have prepared me for marriage? I think it would have helped. I wouldn't say those things. Definitely, I would have been prepared.
Okay.
But I think it would have helped, and specifically, just it would have matured my maturity and my growth. I would have seen things clear. I would have heard God's voice, and most likely would not have married. So it would have helped. That's all I'm gonna say.
I do think that in preparation, and like when it comes to like being prepared, like Andrea said, like I believe that you should have some level of wholeness before you get married.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the Bible talks about how, Jesus has begun a good work in us, and that it's going to continue until the day of Jesus Christ. So we're going to always be maturing, growing, going from glory to glory. But I believe that you can obtain a level of wholeness that will help, that will prepare you for marriage. And for me, I'm going to put it out there. I don't like cooking. I didn't like cooking before I got married. And when I met my spouse, I let him know that, cooking that's not my thing. I might do that once or twice a week. And that's a good week. So when I went to my church at the time and they were talking about you need to know how to cook, or you need to be cooking and all the other stuff, that kind of went in one ear and out the window. I mean, in one ear and then out the other, because I knew for me, I had to stay true to myself. If I don't like it, I'm not going to force myself to do it. Now, if I married a man and that was important to him, no, let's backtrack. I think that was a discussion we needed to have before we got married. But that's why I let him know, because the background that he comes from, his mom cooks, and she cooks well. So I needed to let him know that if we end up together, it's not going to be like that. And he was okay with it. So for me, when I was thinking about preparing, I looked at, myself emotionally and spiritually. I wanted to make sure that I was whole. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to, my husband wasn't going to be an idol. So I wanted to make sure that Jesus was, my top priority. And then, everything else, like I wasn't, worshiping my husband, but Jesus was still my savior. So there was some things that I needed to be healed. And I feel like I needed to be healed from, and I needed to be made whole in. And I feel like during my time of singleness, I did, and even I remember when Dawn and I first started dating, I took my eye off of Jesus for a second, because I remember being in worship and thinking about him and giggling when I was supposed to be worshiping or praying. And I felt like the Holy Spirit corrected that right away. But I looked at that and I was like, no, that's not the type of woman I want to be. I want to make sure that my relationship with Jesus is solid. I want to make sure that I have a consistent prayer life. I want to make sure that, Jesus is my first love. Like, I'm not, putting Jesus on the back burner just so I can have a man or cater to him. But I want to make sure that, Jesus and we have a true relationship. That was very important to me. And I remember just telling, when I was 23, I had, was praying, and I told God that there were certain things that I wanted before I even got into a relationship. I didn't know that I was going to be single for 10 years. I probably wouldn't have said those things, but nonetheless, I said those things. And one of the things I said is I want to know that I can be happy by myself, without a man, without being in a relationship, but I could be happy with Jesus, that I can enjoy his company. And I believe that even though when I met Dawn, I felt like I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready to be in a relationship. God knew that I was ready for that relationship because of the years. Now, I was single for 10 years. I pray that y'all don't have to be single for 10 years if marriage is something that you want. But for me, it took me 10 years to get prepared and just emotionally prepared, emotionally stable. I was not stable emotionally. I was all over the place. One day I'm happy, next day I'm sad. It was like up and down, up and down. And I believe by the time I met my husband, even though, in my mind, I'm looking for a church home. I'm trying to, that's not my focus. I'm focusing on my career. It was like, I can say that when I got to the point where I met him, I was emotionally stable. When I got to the point where I met him, I had a solid relationship with Jesus, and some of the other things that that was on my list. I felt like, God had did a work in me. So I do think that is, to me, part of preparation, just making sure that you are spiritually and emotionally together and your relationship with Christ is strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good, Kiana. Because I remember my second year of college, and one of the things I was an emotional mess. I had a lot of hurt, and all stemming from the hurt I experienced with molestation and rape. And one of the things I remember saying, like, my second year of college, that like I didn't want no man. Well, they boys, but I didn't want no man. I don't want to be with anybody. Just kind of like what you said. I want to just be by myself, not have to feel the need to have someone feed my brokenness or even cloud it with love or lust or whatever you may say. And I remember, like, I wouldn't say I was mad at the world. I wouldn't say that, but I was just like, I don't want nobody. Like, leave me alone. I'm by myself. And it's, that Satan is a, he be busy. He be busy. And put them temptations or put the wrong people in your space to steer you away from God. And that was, I think I got caught up. But Yeah, just as listening to you saying that, like that was one of the things that I had prayed, but I did not. I wouldn't say I consistently prayed that prayer, but yeah, and I think because I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't deep seated in the Word and consistent and diligent with my prayer and just my relationship with Christ. It left room for the enemy to come in with, these tactics and temptations and kind of send me away. But I do have a question. Do you all believe the phrase, you attract who you are? Do you believe in that? You attract who you are?
I don't. Yes, I do in a sense, because I remember, well, first off, I grew up with the thought that all men were dogs, right? That was my thought process. I said it all the time. All men are dogs. All men are dogs. And like I said, just from childhood experiences, I was broken and I was hurt. And so I would attract a lot of guys who were dogs. And so I believe that once I became serious with Christ and I started to grow and mature in God, I can tell you that I started to attract a lot of good men. Now, they were not good for me, but they were really good men. And that's when I changed my mindset. Like, I no longer thought that all men were dogs. It's just that I was meeting a lot of dogs. I said to myself one day, it's a lot of good men out there. And I believe that, and that's not to say that I didn't attract or guys who were no good didn't try to talk to me. But I noticed that the caliber of men that was trying to talk to me during my singleness, it changed drastically. And I believe it's because I wasn't releasing certain things like abandonment, rejection, things of that nature. God was, healing me internally from some things or spiritually from some things. I started to attract a better quality of men. So I kind of think so. Yeah.
I asked that question. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to say I disagree, just because when I think of the statement that you said is that you attract what you are. So using Kiana's example, that would mean I attract trash dudes because I'm trash. And that's not what you said, but I'm saying that example of you attracting dogs. I don't think that you attract dogs because you live the same life that they do. So to your point, I agree with the rest of what you said. I feel like certain things in you attract certain kinds of people. Like if you are broken in certain areas, certain kinds of people will be drawn to it. But I don't necessarily think that it's because you're drawing what you are. You're just drawing, like, someone who's narcissistic and controlling may be drawn to somebody who has low self-esteem. You know what I mean? Like, so they're not attracting their same, but they're attracting it's still toxic. You know what I'm saying? It's still toxic, and people prey upon that. So, I don't necessarily think if you attract men who treat you bad, it's because you're bad. It's probably because something in you that God needs to heal, but it's not necessarily that it's the same thing that they are. That's what I was thinking.
Okay, so let me clarify that, because I wasn't saying that because I was attracting a dog, I was a dog. Yeah. But because there was something broken in me, I was attracting men who had something broken in them, and they might have just been acting out as a hoe. Or being promiscuous. But if I were to sit them down and really talk to them, I would find out that they're from a broken home. They feel abandoned. They feel rejected. Like similar feelings, similar things that I'm going through. It's just that they're expressing themselves differently. I wasn't, a hoe, and that wasn't, what I wanted to do in life. Okay. So I expressed it differently, self-hate and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Andrea.
No, I was going to say, I asked that question specifically, like you both not like answered the way I would have, but that was exactly what I was thinking about. Because just even in my healing process, and I'm still healing, but not too long ago, like I was just reflecting on not just the husband that I had, for even men that had tried to pursue me, or even men that I don't know what to say, I once liked or thought I wanted to be with. And me being healed in some areas, like I can see clear now that they were broken in some areas. And I was just thinking, was it because, now I think about like Andrew, like what? Like, why would you have even like this person ain't even for you? Why were you even liking them? Like, why were you even interested in them? Why did you even think that they could have potentially been your second husband or something? Like, why? And it's like so clear to me now, but I think in it, because I was also broken in those areas, or not even the same areas as he was said, if you or someone with, low self-esteem or something like that, and there's a guy that wants to be controlling, he's drawn to you because he knows that you're somebody you can control. And so I was just thinking about that correlation, not specifically what Tia said, but just the correlation of my brokenness and the ones that were either attracted to me or I was attracted to them, but it was because of those things that were not healed, or the things that I had not been delivered from, that might have drawn me to them or them to me. And so I was just, I wanted to get your perspective on that. So
one of the things I've been thinking about is just how, and I was reading an article yesterday and it made me laugh because I could tell that the writer was a woman, and she wrote it as if like the article was like soothing to her, but she was, the article was about why ambitious and driven women tend to be in toxic romantic relationships. But either way, it just, some of the things she said in it, I found interesting, and I chuckled because you could tell that she was twisting things to take the blame off the fact that let's just choose better. But I think there are a lot of twisted ideas about what relationships are, or what the role of a woman is. I think a lot of women stay in situations or are attracted to certain kinds of men, and they stay in it because some we're taught that we're supposed to be like these nurturers and these fixers, and love hurts and all of this stuff. So I think oftentimes, I think a lot of times women end up in relationships, and you see this guy and you see all of these negative things about him, but because how people are taught about relationships, you think it's your job as a woman to make him better. It's your job to bear through it, and he's your project. You know what I mean? And then you add in the fact, if the two people are saved, you feel like you are doing ministry in dealing with this man's horrible treatment. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna be little Jesus up here, and I'm gonna heal him. When in reality, let Jesus do that, and you step out of it. And stop, and don't make your need to fix. Don't interpret your personal need to fix that God needs to fix you, and make it seem like it's ministry. But I think a lot of women just think that we're supposed to deal with bad. And it builds character and it makes us strong. And I'm a good woman because, my husband cheated on me and I stayed, or I'm a good woman. He hit me that one time, but he beat me for 6 years, but we came through. And that's no shade to the people who that was their life. But I don't want women to see those stories and think that is the measure. Like, you don't actually have to be with a man that mistreats you. Now, y'all know how I feel about marriage. Once you end it, you stuck. But I don't think feel that way. They should, if they're going to, back to the preparation question, which is the main question for the episode, like, I would like more preparation to be done with teaching men and women to see like certain red flags and then kind of work through, like, how do you address these things? Are these things that you're okay with? And if this happens and you're not okay with it, how do you adjust? Like,
premarital counseling.
Yeah, but for premarital counsel, you already there already. I'm saying, like you for premarital counsel, you're already in a relationship. But I'm saying, even just for singles, like I think people need to start thinking about that kind of stuff. Yeah, because I think a lot of people choose poorly. And and then the other piece is just because you chose poorly, you in covenant. So you're bad for your choice. Unless he's beating you or cheating on you, work it out with Jesus. That's Tia. You know, you free if you want to be free. I'm saying for Tia, that's how Tia think. My sister on the podcast, she disagrees. You know, this is another conversation her and I have all the time.
I disagree.
But I just do think that I would like to see more effort put into like the idea of choosing, or like, you know what I mean? Like what makes a good type of person. And because I think specifically with women, we aren't really taught to, I think it's looked down upon for a woman to say this is, because people make fun of lists, right? Like a lot of women have lists, but then it's looked down upon. Like, you silly girl, all this list with 65 pieces on it, girl. Shoot, you listen, you gotta compromise. And there's space for that. But I feel like certain things you shouldn't have to compromise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you call it? You should have your non-negotiables, but I don't think that you should have a list in the sense of he has to be 6'3". He has to be dark skin, real chocolate, white teeth. He has to have a six pack. He has to be 6 figures, because when you do that, you kind of, what you want for your life begins to compete with what God wants for your life. If that person that God is sending into your life doesn't fit that bill. And that was my issue. Okay. So I'm speaking from my perspective, because I had a list, and Don, he is the handsomest man that I've ever, been in a relationship with. I was very much attracted to him, but I was like, no, son, he is 8 years younger than me. This is, my man is already established. He's older. Like, I had my list, and my list, when God showed me his list, I was like, that's not the Lord. That's the devil. I bind it. I rebuke that. They're trying to set me up, trap me. And it was God. So I don't think you should have a list, but
But I think, like you said, I think there should be certain things that are not negotiable, that aren't necessarily, because the things that you listed were more like, girl, you'll be fine. Like, if you got chips,
really have lists like that. Hello?
Yeah. Absolutely, they do. So I agree that those, I don't see a problem with having, you can say this is what you desire, but submit your desires to what God desires. And I think that's the piece that sometimes people miss. Like, I want all of this.
That flexibility.
Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done. And I think that's the piece that's missing. But I think, we got to be clear on the non-negotiables. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what things are red flags, and the red flags are different for everybody, but kind of teach people how to deal with those. Like, if you're already in the relationship, or because I've talked to people who realize on their wedding day, before they said I do, I should not say I do. But they said it, you know what I'm saying? Because the social pressure, but like, even having conversations like that, like, how do you deal with that stuff? Like, if someone that you don't, I was watching a old episode of The Real, and they were talking about the whole idea of a man proposing to you. Do you say yes if it's in front of people? Like, how, I just think a lot of people end up in situations because they don't know how to handle those difficult or uncomfortable moments, and then they just go along for the ride and end up unhappy for years. That's just random. But that's no, y'all. I said no before. Someone proposed to me before Dawn, and I said no. It was rough. It was hard. It was uncomfortable, and it was awkward. We weren't. Did y'all stay together?
Girl, that's a whole nother podcast. We weren't even together. Okay, you should have proposed. Wow. Okay, you spoke to me about it before. I told you no. You still went to the store to get the ring. Hello, what's the problem? But that's a whole, that's a whole nother episode. Like a whole different episode. One day I'm gonna tell that story.
You said it's going to be an episode, so let's go.
But that's good, Tia. I do. Before I was just like, list of stupid. But no, not now. No, I'm not opposed to the list, but just pointing out to what you were saying, at least the red flags, acknowledging them, knowing what you don't want or won't be able to work through or accept, knowing those ahead of time is good. So you're not blinded or blinded or overshadowed by some other thing that clouds your judgment. But going back to something you said, Tia, a lot of women feel as though they may see a man that may be broken and it's like, oh, well, as long as we're saved or whatever, we can work through, I can heal him, I can help him, blah, blah, blah. I would say I've never been that type of person to try to fix somebody, but I would say that I have and still do in some sense try to always look for the good in someone, and that's when you mess up because those red flags are there, but you don't address them, and you go and say, but this is where they're good at, so let's just focus on that. And I think that's where you trip yourself up. That's where you trip yourself up, was just trying to always look for the good in someone, which it's fine with looking at the good, but not addressing the bad and looking past that is where you setting yourself up, shorty. So yeah, but that is something that was so bad. And Tia be like, Andrea, something. She be setting me straight. And I be like, but
and she fuss and she get mad at me when I try. So it's nice to hear her say that sometimes I'll be right. Like,
yeah, Tia is right. Tia is right sometimes. I agree.
You hear that, Kiana?
Sometimes. But not when she like. Do y'all have anything else y'all want to add?
No, I'm good. I think that was a good episode.
I do too. I think it was a very good episode. So we're going to wrap this up. We like to thank you for tuning in and listening to us. You've heard our perspective, and you can actually tell us what you all think. You can hit us up on our social media platforms. We're everywhere. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Our handle is A Dose of 3, and that's the number, not the word. So until next time, bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.